Guys, I don't know what more can be said about Chris Nolan. I think that he has entered into master of his craft territory. The Odyssey is one of the best movies I've seen in recent memory, and I don't think you need me to tell you that it's a must watch. I'm going to get into full spoilers here, so if you have not yet seen the movie, what are you doing? Go see it. This movie has an absolutely stacked cast from top to bottom. You've obviously got names like Matt Damon and Tom Holland, but then even some of the smaller characters were played by amazing actors like Lupita Nyong'o, Charlize Theron, Zendaya. Everyone clearly wants to work with Chris Nolan. You know that the technical aspects of the film, like the cinematography and editing, are going to be top notch. And really, I don't even feel a need to talk about that stuff. But for those of you that are uninformed, obviously this is the first movie that's shot front to back in IMAX. And there is a difference between shot on IMAX and filmed for IMAX. There may be a lucky few of you out there that were able to watch this film on its true format. IMAX 70mm screens are very few and far between. There is one of them in my city, but it broke the weekend this movie was released. However, months ago, I opted to book tickets for the standard 70mm showing. I know the hype for IMAX was huge on this movie, but honestly, I really wanted to see it on film instead. I'm really glad that I did because I feel like it provided a really unique experience. It was actually funny. Some guy was yelling about how he had to ask for a refund because he thought the 70mm showing was IMAX. But seeing it on film was amazing. It was so detailed, the colors were gorgeous, and it made the experience even more special than it already was. Now, the bulk of what I want to talk about here is how Chris Nolan adapted a huge epic story like the Odyssey into a film. As is typical with Chris Nolan, he did not do this in a linear fashion. He throws you right into the exposition in the beginning, which kind of jarred me a little bit. I was kind of worried that we were going to be set up with another Nolan movie that has weird dialogue for most of it, but really it was just kind of setting the table for the remainder of the film. And after this first exposition dump, the movie just locked you in. And I'm talking everybody in my theater was dead silent, eyes glued to the screen. The movie plays out with two distinct timelines. You've got the present day timeline, which follows the happenings at the palace, as well as Odysseus on a beach trying to remember his past. And then you've got Odysseus's memories. And the movie just kind of flips back and forth between current day and these memories. But the amazing thing is that each of these memories that Odysseus recalls are just these huge epic sequences. So what you end up with is a movie that is really well balanced. You've got the quiet drama that leads to a huge epic sequence, some more quietness here, and then you've got another huge sequence. And it's like that for the entire film until the ending climax where the two timelines meet. I think that the pacing of this film was almost perfect besides that one opening sequence. Each of Odysseus's memories were thrilling and action-packed. Some of them were even filled with scary elements like body horror. So Chris Nolan isn't just doing the same old thing over and over again, he's experimenting with different genres. So to sum up the adaptation, I think they did a 10 out of 10 job here. Now, leading up to this film and seeing the press releases and some of the early images, people were already complaining about the historical accuracy. I think that most of these arguments are pretty silly. This is just one man's vision of a story that has been told over the past thousands of years. And I think that if people are willing to accept movies like Oh Brother, Where Art Thou, which is an adaptation of the same story, then they should have no problem appreciating Chris Nolan's version. I understand that Chris Nolan's version of Odysseus may not be completely accurate to the original story, but for God's sakes, this is a movie. How could you possibly lock in an entire audience for 3 hours on a story that old? I feel like if anyone can do it, Chris Nolan could, and I believe he did. Again, I don't want to talk too much about the technical aspects here because I think we all know what to expect with Chris Nolan, but the movie was beautiful. It was shot amazing. Every single scene was just executed perfectly. The acting from everybody was incredible, specifically Anne Hathaway. I do feel like Matt Damon was a little weak here, but I feel like that's just what you kind of expect from him. Jon Bernthal went full Jon Bernthal. It was kind of odd seeing Tom Holland outside of his Spider-Man character, but he did a good job. Seeing Robert Pattinson literally squirming around as a little slimy villain was so funny. The smaller performances like Charlize and Lupita and Zendaya, while having minimal screen time, were still very impactful. And you put all of these different aspects together and it ends up being what is almost a perfect movie. I really enjoyed this movie all the way through. Right out the theater, I gave this movie a 5 out of 5. However, after kind of chewing on it and sleeping on it, I did drop it half a point. I think that the opening sequence really could have been executed a little better and flowed into the entire structure of the film. I also think that the character of Odysseus could have been adapted a little bit better. Again, I didn't really mind Matt Damon so much, but his performance was just a tad bit weak here. So all in all, I think that this is another masterpiece from Chris Nolan. I certainly liked it more than Oppenheimer. I feel like this guy has no ceiling and is going to be one of the best filmmakers of our time. I gave this one a 4.5 on Letterboxd. A lot of people are going to see this movie. I am interested to see how the TikTok generation reacts to this one. It is quite the film and has subject matter that may not be the most interesting to a lot of folks, but at least with my theater, everyone seemed to enjoy it. And for any of you that stumble upon this video, I would really like to hear your thoughts. Was this another banger from Chris Nolan? Was the adaptation a little too much for you? As always, I appreciate those of you that have watched to the end of this video, and make sure you argue with me in the comments.